desire your prayers tonight. I was reading this the other day, and I was actually reading this in the car to Brother Chris as he was driving, and I said, it's been 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, this is what I feel like we need to share during BTI service. I said, it is a packed chapter full of things we need to know. And so, of course they all are, but when you look at this chapter, there's so many things here. And if we start with verse 1, it says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Now, I'm down here tonight, so I think that means that we can talk amongst ourselves. So if you have anything to say. But first off, somebody tell me what reasonable is. What would you call reasonable?
Very, very minute, very lowest that you could expect.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Within reason.
Within reason. Yeah.
Anything less is unreasonable.
So this verse says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your, how did you put it? Reasonable, how did you put it down?
Very, very, very minute.
It's the least we could do. It's kind of for what God's done for us, the least we could do is present ourselves in service to Him. Luke chapter 9, verse 23, Jesus said unto them, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Notice that word daily too. It didn't say take up your cross on Sunday morning and put it back down Sunday evening after church.
Right.
Some people think a day of rest, Sunday's the only time you're supposed to worry about it because that's the day of rest. And a lot of people consider Sunday is a day of rest. And many people go to church on that day. But then what do we do the rest of the 6 days? But it says, take up your cross daily and follow me. When we do those things, taking up our cross and following the Lord, we should be able to present our bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. Verse 2, and I appreciate Sister Pulliam for singing the 2 songs tonight. The one, I can't feel at home in this world anymore, kind of goes along with this verse. It says, and be not conformed to this world. Be not conformed to this world. We can't feel at home. What is feel at home? Somebody will say, just make yourself at home. Relax, do whatever you need to do. I cleaned Sister Doris's daughter's house, and she'll say, just make yourself at home. Of course, I'm there to clean her house, so there's not much relaxing I could do. But sometimes if I need a drink out of the refrigerator, she says, go get you a drink. Feel at home. But we cannot be conformed to this world or feel at home. This is not our home.
No, it's not.
Spring Meadow Lane is not my home. That's my temporary dwelling. But that's not my home. Falcon is not your home. Wherever we live, that's not our home. Our forever home. I occasionally watch, thankfully it's on YouTube because I don't have TV, House Hunters. And they come on there and they say, I'm looking for my forever home. I want it to be one that I don't ever have to move. But one day we're going to move.
Amen.
And I think we're all going to want that move. And we don't even have to pack up anything and take it with us. We just go on and we've just got to be ready. And be not conformed to this world. Don't be too comfortable in this world. But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Transformed by the renewing of your mind. Anybody got any thoughts on that? A change. Transform means to change.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that word there is metamorpho. Has to do with, like, everybody knows the word metamorphosis, butterflies and caterpillars and such. It's not just an outward change, but it's an inward change. Everything is changed. It's a complete overhauling of everything that we are.
Right, because maybe when we first moved into our place, we thought, well, this is where we're going to live forever. And in the world, that's what you think. That's all you've got to look forward to, is whatever house or home you're moved into. But then, when you come to the Lord, your mind changes. You're like, this is not my home anymore. I'm ready for my earthly home. And I don't want to, basically be here. We know we have to be here. We've all got reasons and purposes to be here. The definition of that is to change into another form, to transform, to transfigure. We change our mindset. There's a song that Sister Janet used to sing. It says, my wants have been changed. Things that we used to want, now that we're serving the Lord, things have changed. Maybe we served the world and did everything that the world wanted us to do. But then when we come to Christ, or even, hopefully if we're not there, we're working on it, that all of our mind and goals are set heavenward and not to the world.
When you think about metamorphosis and you think about caterpillar changes a butterfly, the caterpillar makes a cocoon. And he's in that cocoon, and I can't remember how long I've done it, I've read about it, but for a certain amount of time. He's not out and about. He's up and he's wrapped himself in a cocoon because there is a transformation taking place. And that's the way it is when we have exactly what the scripture says, transformed by the renewal of our minds. There is a transformation taking place. And the purpose of it, once we see the creature that went into the cocoon, it's totally different. He's not crawling, he's flying around.
And sometimes they're a whole lot prettier after
The
they're...
colors, a lot of times, but I thought, to prove what is that good and acceptable. I think it also says perfect will of God. There has been a change taking place. When you've been with God, when you've been, spiritually in the Lord, you don't stay the same, Sister Wendy. But there's fruit that shows forth you've been with God. And we can't say we've been with God and not have a transformation.
Right.
Something's wrong
Right.
when we haven't had a transformation, but yet our testimony says, I've been with God.
It can't last just a few days.
Right.
Some people's their change might be for a couple of days and then they're right back to where, but mentioning, it's prettier sometimes, the moth, the butterfly is prettier, but that's just like us. We're prettier people, or more handsome people, when we're serving the Lord. When we've thrown off the thing. I've seen people, it'll show a picture of somebody that's on drugs or meth, and then there's a church in town that's doing recovery, people recovering from this. And one of them had a picture of this guy, and he looked rough, in bad shape. And he testified that God had delivered him from drugs and different things like that. And they put a picture there, and he looked totally opposite. He looked peaceful. He looked free. He had, his face was fuller. And he just looked totally different. But he said, I'm finally free. Did you have something?
I appreciate what you said, Sister Pulliam, about it's that you may prove. That's the important thing. It's not just about looking different, because a butterfly doesn't just look different than a caterpillar. It is different. Like I said earlier, it's inside and out. It's complete. The face that you saw, that change from on drugs to serving the Lord, and that change wasn't just an external change. That was an internal change. And it's by that change, by that complete, full change, that transformative change, that we prove that God exists. Because we couldn't do that. I, as a person, could not change myself into the person that I am today compared to the person who I used to be. I have no power to do that. Now, I can lose weight, I can gain weight, I can go to the gym, I can do these things personally, but that doesn't change my soul. That doesn't change my outlook on life. But it's that internal change. And when people see that complete transformation on the inside and on the outside, then by that we prove God's existence. We prove the power that He has to truly transform a life.
You know, we're looking at the positive side of the transformation right now, but I was thinking that the scripture says, be not conformed.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reverse.
Right, there's
You go ahead. I want to get it.
Go ahead.
But my mind went, Sister Wendy, to the story that Brother David shared with us about the painting of the Last Supper, when the artist searched for someone that he could paint to portray Jesus, and he found this young man that just had a loving countenance on his face and all that. And then later on, years he was still painting, and he looked for someone who was so wretched to portray Judas. And he found a man, I believe he was in prison, the story goes, but when he found him, and the man told him, he said, you don't know who I am, but I was the man that you chose for Jesus earlier, because he had such a countenance. But I think that's a wonderful example of what being conformed to this world, how it can affect us. I want to be transformed and not conformed.
And ever growing, because there's some people that are transformed one way, and then later on down the road they go back if they're not in the Word, in prayer, presenting themselves as a holy sacrifice.
Daily taking up their cross.
Right.
And there's not a different salvation for the people in the Church of God than one for the denominational world. That's the thing that always blows my mind. There's one Christ, one Savior, one salvation, you know.
It says holy in everybody's Bible as far as I know. I mean, even
But I just get amazed because we see such a double standard, you know. And I thought, Jesus said, a good tree cannot bring forth. No possible way a good tree can bring forth evil fruit. That's what he said. And he said there's no possible, that's not his words, but you know, I'm sort of trying to make a point. He said there's no possible way that an evil tree can bring forth good fruit either. That's why he also says you can judge a tree by its fruit.
right. And that's a proof what is that good
That's right.
and acceptable and perfect will of God. That's proven. We will be able to tell sometimes. I mean, we don't have to judge or throw stones. We can see bearing fruit, not bearing fruit. If they're not bearing fruit, we need to pray that much harder for them.
But we do need to understand what is the perfect, acceptable will of God.
Right.
Because if we don't, then we can find ourselves being like that.
Right.
You know.
We could get some rotten fruit and destroy the whole
Right.
bushel. And that's happened many a times. Even in literally, you know, you get an apple and it rots, and then the other day Dad gave me some squash, and if I hadn't hurried and got the one bad one out, they all would have been bad. But that's why we need to stay close to the Lord so that we can bear that good fruit, that we can be acceptable unto God. And the Word will tell us. There are many scriptures in the Beatitudes that I found kind of relate to Romans chapter 12. Matthew 5 and 8 in the Beatitudes, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Well, when we're pure, when we're holy, we're presenting ourselves as a living sacrifice, proving what is good, acceptable, perfect will of God, transformed, renewing our mind, then we are pure in heart. And it says, for they shall see God. We want to be able to see the Lord. We want to be able to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Verse 3 says, For I say through the grace given unto me to every one that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. Also, Matthew 5 and 7, you go back to the Beatitudes. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. We need to realize that we can't think of ourselves any higher than anybody else. If you think about it, God created all of us out of dirt. I think I said this not long ago. We were all born naked, and we're all going to be put in to, if the rapture don't take place, Brother Carver might end up putting us in a casket and getting us ready to go. Our bodies. And then our bodies, most of the time, will go back to the ground. You can't take anything with you. You can't even take the accolades, like you were saying, the PhDs and all this, you can't take any of that with you. It's just between you and God. So therefore, we can't think of ourselves more highly than we ought to think. But be merciful, and we shall obtain mercy. Verse 4, For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office. Verse 5, So we being many are one body in Christ, and every one members of another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the portion of faith. Or ministry, let us wait on our ministering. Or he that teacheth, on teaching. Or he that exhorteth, on exhortation. He that giveth, let him do it with simplicity. He that ruleth, with diligence. He that showeth mercy, with cheerfulness. Let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good. I want to stop there for a minute. Matthew 5 and 6 said, Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Many of these gifts, prophecy, ministering, exhortation, teaching, people had to be hungry and thirsty after righteousness. They have to learn and teach the Word of God so that they can bring it forth if they're called into that ministry. This is right below not thinking too highly of yourself. And I think about even pastors, and I'm not speaking of our pastor, but pastors in general. Maybe mega church pastors, so to speak. Pastors who might think, I'm the pastor. Whatever I say goes, and y'all can't say nothing else, and I'm going to preach whatever I preach. There are some ministers that stand behind the podium and they have nobody. They don't even have any teachings or anything. They're independent, or they do whatever they want to do, and they're in charge of all of it. But it says nobody needs to think more highly than they ought to think. I've heard ministers, Brother William said, once I was lost. Brother Chris, as the deacon of the church, I was once lost. We were all lost. We were all had that Adamic nature at one time.
always think of the scripture, and again, I'm not quoting word for word, but said, when you go sit in the lower seat, so that you won't have to be asked to get out of the higher seat to move to the lower seat because it's for somebody else, you know. And over and over, we have scripture to support, you know, that we're to serve one another. We're to be humble one to another. And be, you know, Christ served the disciples. He said, do it as you see me do, you know. And it's not just the act of it, Sister Wendy. He wasn't just acting something out. He was truly a humble servant. He came to give his life. You know, it wasn't just a talk. You know,
Like we have feet washing.
right.
That
Yeah.
we can remember that all the time.
Right.
Because I'm not in here, but I'm pretty sure Brother Pulliam washes one of the guys' feet. And they wash his feet. And I know our general overseers, same thing. You know, they're not like, well, you're not washing my feet. And I feel like feet washing has more meaning when, especially if you're in a huge crowd. I've seen people buddy up before.
Yeah.
Sister Crystal, you're my buddy. Can you wash my feet? But yeah, we can be humble toward one another. But how is it with the one that maybe we don't know?
You have to realize
Or the
people
lower-
see that too. People see that.
Right.
You know, when you got somebody standing against the wall all alone.
Right, and they don't have
They don't
anybody.
have anybody. People see that.
That's probably who you need to go to. You'll probably get a blessing if you go
And the
to.
sad thing about it, Sister Wendy, it can hurt people. And it's, maybe nobody meant nothing by it. Maybe nobody meant one thing by it. But we've got to be, we can't give place to the devil. You know, and I like the part there that says, let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good.
Yeah, stay away from anything.
That's right. Anything that's going to cause hurt, that can destroy, abhor it. Cleave to that which is good. You know, and me and Clint has taught, this happened many years ago, but we were at a convention and somebody had asked us to sit with them. So when we went through the line, we went to sat with them, and we happened to think later about a couple that was sitting at another table all by themselves. And that's bothered me, Clint. We talked about it after we left. We didn't intentionally do it, Wendy.
Right.
Somebody had asked us to sit with them. But after we
And
got
something
home, we got to thinking about it. And it really broke our hearts. And we said, you know what? We need to learn to look around.
Yeah, but sometimes we don't.
Yeah, sometimes the
I'm
only thing
guilty
that
myself.
we care about is what we want.
Right.
But sometimes we do need to look around, and we should have a heart for one another.
I love this section because it reminds us that we all have a part to play. It's we could take times. Well, I'm jealous, Brother Tom's. He can play the piano so well. Why can't I be the pastor of this church? Why am I just a little lowly nobody? You know. But we all have a part to play. We all have our responsibilities. I praise the Lord that we have Tom here to play the piano for us.
Right.
I praise the Lord that we have Brother Pulliam here to preach to us and shepherd us as a shepherd does a sheep. I praise the Lord that we each have different talents, and we can't look to each other and think more highly of some. Why, Brother Pulliam, I sure look up to him because he's a pastor. He's a good pastor, but Caleb, he's no good. He's nothing over there. He's VLB leader. That's nothing. You know, I don't envy his position. It's something like that.
But it does work both ways. People envy, you know, well, he's the VLB leader. I wanted to do that.
But that's
You
the
know,
whole point. It goes in every different direction. The enemy will put anything in our mind to get us thinking
Well, that's
whatever
really
it is that God doesn't want us to use.
Right. And I was going to mention that. I was thankful, you know, Sister Christine's here and she helps with the children. There's a lot of y'all probably guys more than girls, probably don't want to go deal with that.
Praise
Chris
the
would
Lord.
have them so loud that you wouldn't be able to hear Brother Pulliam preaching. He'd be throwing them up and hollering and, you know. So there's a place for everybody. I can't play the tambourine at all like Brother Jason can. I just can't do it. And so each of us have something that we can do.
Absolutely.
Brother Nick, even now, he's sweet and nice to people. And I'm like, how can he be so nice to people? But he's got that gift. That's something
We
that
all need that gift.
we all need that. Yes, we do. But I've seen that in him in the last several months. And I'm like, Lord, help me.
Absolutely.
But that's, it
But
should,
I don't want to envy him. But Lord, help me that I can grow and be sweet and nice to people all the time. You know?
that's the exact kind of attitude that it should have. That kind of attitude going around should benefit. Lord, help me to be more like Brother Caleb. Lord, help me to recognize the good in those around me and desire more of that for myself.
You know, Sister Park goes visiting. You know, she'll walk these streets and all the time. I'm like, Lord, help me to visit people. You know, but some of us have gifts that we're outstanding at. You know, and then some of us are like, well, what can I do? You know, but there's just so many things but God has put us.
When the 10 disciples, their mother wanted to know which of was going to be the greatest. It caused the others who heard them ask for that.
Yeah.
It caused strife, the Bible said. When we have that spirit or that is working in our midst, it causes problems. You know, we've got to realize that, you know.
I've seen it happen, especially around appointment time. You know, somebody, well, I wanted that job or I wanted that job. Well, let's just let Brother Pulliam figure it out. He and God can pray about it. Or he can pray and God can direct him. And guess what? I would rather God use him to appoint me in a position than to say, well, I want to be, we're picking on Caleb tonight. I want to be VLB leader. I don't want to be CPMA leader anymore. I want to be VLB leader because I want to hang out with the youth. But if that's not what God wants, I don't need to be there. I need to be wherever God has put me. If he wants me to, I use sometimes the toilet scrubber. You know, I don't think that's a real appointment, but it's got to be done. Somebody's got to mow the grass. Somebody's got to clean. Somebody's got to do certain things that you have.
We're talking about division. I love what Paul said about division, Romans 16:17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. Now, it says, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned. Now, that's not necessarily so that they're talking about individuals who are going against the doctrine. Certainly that's a cause of division. But the actual causing of division and the causing of offenses is against the doctrine which you have learned. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not saying, well, I don't think this part of the 29 teachings is right, so I'm gonna stand up and preach that and cause division. That's not necessarily what it's talking. As much as that's wrong, simply causing divisions, causing offenses, those things, all by themselves, are contrary to the doctrine which we have learned.
Yeah, I mean, we could start with, I can't believe William put Sister Park in his WMB. I think I could have done a little better job than that. And that could cause, you know, you go say it to Brother Jason, and Brother Jason says, well, you know what Wendy said, and you know, and it can cause
Turmoil.
But if we all
Strife.
accept our individual callings, if God's called you to do something, He's going to find a way to put you to work.
I believe it was David that said if he could just be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord.
I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than to dwell in the tents of the wicked.
And Sister Wendy, sometimes people don't really know their calling, but if they are a willing worker and be willing for God to use them, then God can work through the pastor to take and ask them to do something, and if they're willing, then God can use that as a means of them finding their place.
I've seen that happen. People say, you know, if you want me to do anything, you just let me know. You know, I want to be a worker. And I've seen people do that. I don't care what it is, I just want to work for the Lord. And there's some people that will, I want to vacuum the carpets of the local church, you know. That's what they feel like they can do for the church. I want to plant flowers outside. I want, you know, do whatever. I feel like I need to mow the grass. I've got a lawnmower. You know, different people have different things that can help the church.
Absolutely.
One way or another. There's all kinds of different.
Well, I think, I like what was said, Clint, I believe said it Sunday about, George Washington. How can you be a leader if you've never been in a place where you have fallen? You know, there has to be some training there, you know? But a lot of people, they just want to jump right into being a leader, you know? And a lot of times I think when they've never been willing to sit and be taught, they become more of a novice than a true leader. And somewhere down the road, you find they lose out and they're no longer, you know, in that position. But you gotta be willing to take baby steps. You just don't grow up overnight in a position to, you know, be a leader.
Verse 10 says, be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. This goes back to some of the stuff we're talking about. Of course, I've heard it say too, Brother Pulliam, okay, Sister Wendy, we're wanting you to see if you make, no, I prefer my brother. Well, we really can't do that either.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works either. Well, I prefer Brother Nick to do it because I just don't have time. Well then, or he's a better leader than me. No, you prayed, you sought. That's what we have to. You know, I prefer somebody else, but preferring one another, put them ahead of you, put them up front.
I think this is, you know, it could be applicable. Some people have the spirit about them that they feel like whoever's doing whatever, they can be doing it better. You know?
One-upper.
Huh?
A one-upper.
Yeah. This scripture, you know, if the Lord blesses anyone in here to do anything, then, you know, I'm not to be jealous of that, or if their blessing or God using them irritate me, you know, pray for them. They're going to need it.
Well, that's one thing that Chris told me a while back. I was struggling with something. I just could not get anything out of how they were speaking, and Chris goes, pray for them. Pray for them. Don't get upset. Don't not show up for church. Of course, I wasn't going to do that, but anyway. But pray for them. They need your prayers. And it might be you and not them, you know. And so.
It shouldn't be like those who wanted to cast the first stone. They were ready to stone her. You know, you shouldn't be that way.
Blessed are they that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. If you go to church hungry to receive, you'll be fed. If you go to church and you're not hungry to be fed, you won't receive anything. It doesn't matter how good the speaker is. It doesn't matter how powerful the words are. It doesn't matter how powerful the Spirit is working in that individual, even in the congregation. If you don't go to service hungering and thirsting for righteousness, you're going to leave just as hungry as you came in.
It's true. Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord.
I don't understand how I got all that from verse 10.
Who? Brother Chris?
A lot of what was taught. Understand.
Well, we kind of elaborated a little bit more. We were on preferring one another,
Right.
you know, putting somebody ahead of ourselves, and then giving examples of.
Preferring one another is the opposite of looking for a position yourself.
Yeah, not just like it says, not just when it's convenient, says, hey, I prefer my brother. You know, but in everything, and always, praying for one another, you know, whatever the circumstances may be.
May have done that second time for those others.
Well, it's also talking about brotherly love there too. You know,
Right, we do.
preferring their needs in front of yours.
Right.
Right. Right. What we shared was one example, but yes, Brother Tom had a good point there. Putting their needs before our needs. That's a good way of putting it. Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. So we can't even be slothful in God's word. We even saw Jesus was about his Father's business at the age of 12. They didn't know where he was, but he wasn't slothful in business. He was doing what he was supposed to do. And we don't need to be slothful in different things that God has called us to do. He might call us to visit. He might call us to, you know, play the tambourine. And then we just don't bring the tambourine. Or if you play a guitar, you know, Brother William plays the guitar. They said, I'm not going to bring it today. But using different things for God's glory.
People often think of not slothful in business, especially ministers think about it when it comes into the month, the first of the month, and using that, making sure you get your reports in on time. That's important. But not slothful in business goes far beyond that. It means taking care of things when they need to be taken care of, as they need to be taken care of.
And that can be spiritually or...
Absolutely.
Because if you're not taking care of your business at home, if you don't pay your electric bill and the electric company keeps having to shut your power off, or if the treasurer don't pay for the lights here, that looks really bad on a Christian. Someone who's saying they're serving the Lord and they don't pay their electric bill. They don't pay, you know, whatever they sign that dotted line to do. They don't make their car payment or their house payment. And then, of course, sometimes there's situations where you might lose a job or you might go through things, but just don't even care.
And that's the thing. It's about being on top of things. There are situations that occur in churches, and the pastor is responsible to take care of those situations. If there's a member who's openly doing something that needs to be that individual needs to be spoken to, potentially about their membership. If that pastor just lets it go, then that's slothful in business. If we see something, and I'm not saying we've ever had that, I'm not saying we have that here, I'm just saying
But
there have been times in the past where you'll see a member who may be participating in things that members should not be participating in, and rather than speaking to them, rather than going and talking to them, nothing happens. And once again, that looks bad on the church, because you see that individual, and this individual may be saying, yeah, I'm a member of the Church of God Southside. And in the meantime, they're out smoking or drinking or whatever else it might be that they might be doing, and bringing a reproach on the church. They say they're a member of the church, and then they're doing these things that are very clearly against the will of God. And so that brings condemnation on the entire body, simply as a result of being slothful in business.
We have to be examples. Can you imagine Brother William coming up Sunday morning and say, I just didn't have time to get a message together. I had other things on my mind. I decided to take a nap Saturday. Or I didn't get the yard mowed out here because I just didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like hooking up my trailer and putting the lawnmower on. Slothful in business. But you fill in the blank. We all have different business we have to take care of, church business, other business. Fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer. That's one of the keys here. Continuing instant in prayer. Because there's so many things here. Of course, Brother Chris always says it's not like a checklist. We should already be doing these things. This is just a refresher course, if you want. Just make sure. Distributing to the necessity of the saints. Given to hospitality. Bless them that persecute you. Bless and not curse. Of course, Matthew 5:43 and 44 says, Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, and hate thine enemy. But I say to you, love your enemy, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. As Christians, we should automatically be doing these things. And if there's something that we're having trouble with, the Lord will help us. Continuing instant in prayer, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, trials, things that we're going through. Were you adding to that part?
Yeah, I'm just going back up to verse 12.
Okay.
Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation. These are some amazing little bitty phrases that we so often just read over and look at and don't pay any attention to. Rejoicing in hope. Now, who in here, your life is perfect? Everything's going the way you want it to. Bank accounts overflowing. Nothing to worry about. Anybody? Don't think so. But we have hope. We know that whatever it is that we're going through now, God is using it for our benefit if we'll only allow Him to work these trials. Rejoicing in hope. Not that we're rejoicing in the joy that the things that are going so perfect in our life. We rejoice in the hope of our salvation. We rejoice in the hope of the return of Christ. We rejoice in the hope that one day we can leave this world behind us. So whatever it is that we may be facing, whatever trials, whatever struggles, whatever difficulties, and it increases in that meaning in that very next phrase, patient in tribulation. Why are we patient in tribulation? Because we're rejoicing in hope. We can be patient in the trial that we're facing right now because we have hope. We can look at the trial that we're facing and we can recognize one of two things. We can either feel sorry for ourselves, we can pitch a pity party, or we can recognize that God is working something for our good, and it's our responsibility to let Him do it. Because He doesn't do anything that's to hinder us. God does not work against us, but for us. And if there's a trial that we're facing right now, you can be sure that God's got a good reason for it. He's working for our perfection. He's working for our spiritual benefit, our spiritual strength. There are so many things that I've gone through in the past that while I was enduring them, whether I was saved or not, whether I was in church or not, while I was enduring them, I didn't think I could get through them. I didn't think I could overcome them. But God had mercy on me and took me through them. And by those things in my past, now when things come against me, I can look back at those things and say, every single time, every single trial that the enemy put in my way, God has turned it around and used it for my benefit. And whatever it is that I'm facing right now, it's no different. And because of that, I can rejoice in hope.
It says patient tribulation. If you look at that word tribulation, it means pressing together, pressure. And of course, it's been said that, God's refining us. The Lord's refining us probably daily, and we need to be patient in that. That He's making us what we ought to be, is what the song says. So that we can make it to our eternal home. Not that the eternal home and not this world, but looking.
And patient. I love the word patient too. Because people think, well, I endured that trial, so I must have patience. Enduring a trial doesn't make you patient. Patience is going through a difficulty with a smile on your face. It's going through it without complaining. If you're complaining about the situation you're in, that's not patience. It's only patience if you go through the situation rejoicing in hope.
Brain, you'll show joy on the face.
Amen.
James said, count it all joy.
Count it all joy.
That's hard to do,
Yes.
but the fruit you speaking about will bear.
Amen.
You know, if you can endure tribulation with joy on your face
Amen.
through the Lord.
Sister Wendy, that second part of that, verse 12, continuing instant prayer, Luke 18:1 says, and he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint.
Amen.
The thought that I had that come to my mind on that is that we shouldn't give up on our prayers. You know, if I pray for John Doe to be saved and I don't see that he's saved, keep praying for him.
Yes.
Don't give up on that prayer. Remember Daniel, you know, he prayed and prayed and prayed, and you know, finally the angel of the Lord said, I heard you the first time you prayed. Don't give up on your prayers, because God's listening. It's all in God's time.
Yes.
Verse 15, rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Thinking about this, rejoice with your brothers and sisters. Instead of saying, well, so-and-so got a new vehicle, or so-and-so got a new car, or they got a new job. Be excited. Praise the Lord. The Lord's answered. Most of the time, it's a prayer that's been answered one way or the other. But then there's a time, weep with them that weep. When they're upset and sad, be right there. Sometimes we have to just be an ear to listen. Matthew 5:4, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Verse 16, be of the same mind one toward another. If we're doing all of these things that it's saying, we're going to be of the same mind. We're going to put each other first, preferring one another, putting everybody ahead of us, rejoicing with them, weeping with them, and being in the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Some of this we've kind of already talked about. Condescend to men of low estate. Those that may be struggling, both maybe spiritually, physically, financially. Help those. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. And if it be possible, as much as life in you, live peaceably with all men. Brother Chris and I were talking about this last night. Live peaceably with everybody. Don't let the struggle, if me and Brother William have a struggle, don't let it be on your part.
Amen.
You know, if it's not on your part, not on my part, we're not going to have a struggle.
Amen.
We're going to be okay. Shake hands, let's be friendly.
Right.
It's all over. But if one of us holds back,
Takes two to run the home.
right. But I can say, you know, I forgive Brother William for whatever, and I'm going to try to live peaceably with him. If he does something mean to me, I'm going to try to be nice back and not retaliate. Well, he's, you know, doing this or doing that, you know, being mean to me. But I can't even think of any examples about how you could be mean. But anyway, being mean, doing this, doing that. But to live peaceably with all.
As much as life in you.
Yes.
I mean.
So
it
you
says,
need to work hard.
If at all possible. Then it goes a step further. As much as life within you.
Right.
I mean, that you went to as far as you can
Right.
go.
Because I could be as nice to
Yeah.
him as possible.
That's right. There's some
and then he
people,
just be-
they're causing it not to be peace.
Right.
It's not nothing you've done. There's no peace because of that person. But as much as life within you.
Right.
And
But
that's
you
a whole
can't.
lot more than what we so often recognize.
Right. Because we're like, oh, I can't handle it anymore. He's just like.
We think that's all that lies within me. No, you got a lot. You know,
Yeah. But you're really looking at it.
right.
To be peaceful. And that's all you can do is do, be as nice and peaceable as possible. And hopefully, that'll turn the other person around. But don't let it turn you around to where you're going to retaliate. Now, well, I've tried 70 times 7 to be peaceable with Brother Pulliam, and it's just not working out, so this is it.
So the next couple verses go into how to be peaceful.
Amen.
Right. Now, Matthew 5 and 9 said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God," back there in the Beatitudes. Verse 19, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." We don't have to take vengeance out on anybody. I've heard some people say, well, that murderer needs to just go to the electric chair and die. God's going to take care of that person. We just got to let them and hopefully pray for them that they'll get saved. Or, in certain situations. But the Lord's going to take care of it. The Lord will give, His vengeance is going to take care of this. We don't need to be His helper.
I think you started out this whole thing with talking about the woman caught in the act of adultery. I think that applies here perfectly. The reaction of Jesus.
She said that, and I said
Somebody,
that before we left the house. Yeah.
I heard it. I know I heard it. I couldn't remember where it was, but I know I heard it. That Jesus' response. If we're supposed to be like Christ, then we should respond as He responds. And when Jesus saw the woman caught in the act of adultery, He said, let him that is without sin first cast a stone at her. Who of us has had no sin in our lives that we have the authority to cast stone at somebody else? None of us. And if Jesus, who also had no sin, who absolutely had no sin, refused to cast a stone, what makes us think that we have a right to ever cast a stone at somebody else?
Well, a lot of it is we don't have patience with people. We got to remember that God had patience with us, but now we're already where we think we need to be, and we're just waiting on everybody else to catch up. Just like the lady with, she committed something wrong. And they didn't realize all the stuff that they were doing wrong, but they were willing to cast a stone at her because that's what the law said to do, and she was right there in the open.
No doubt some of them probably already had the stone in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Right.
When Jesus said, you have sinned.
Well, he knew all that was involved.
Right.
Right. And he
That's
told
the
them,
whole thing.
and
He knew her, and she was guilty,
Yep.
right,
but he knew them.
right. He knew
And they
he knows the heart of everybody.
It's just like the scribes and the Pharisees. He knew them too.
Right.
And they didn't like it, when he told them, your father, they wanted to claim Abraham as their father. And he said, your father be the devil. I mean, Christ never missed it. He never missed it, but he spoke the truth, just the plain truth. But the thing about the woman that was adultery, he knew all parties involved.
Right. He knew everything going on.
And he knows us too, and we should never find pleasure. When somebody is has brought it under reproach, I realize we have to do what's right in the eyes of God. And they have to be dealt with in the right manner. But we should never find pleasure in having to do that.
We've had people turned out before, and we've prayed, after the conference, we're like, pray for this individual. And then later on down the road, somebody says, remember so-and-so. Remember that soul. Jesus said, where are thine accusers? There wasn't anybody there. Why don't condemn you, go and sin no more. That was it. As far as what we've heard from the story. But you know what? If she'd turned back and done it again, vengeance is mine, saying the Lord. The Lord's gonna take care of that. We don't have to throw any stones at her or anybody else, because God's gonna take care of it.
Be sure that your sin will find you out.
Just read that part, I believe we're on verse 19, dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves.
Mhm.
That's, we need to repeat that verse every day to ourselves.
I was thinking I need to read this whole chapter every day.
You know, the devil's gonna bring something
Right.
against you. And first of all, we're human. We have a human nature within us. But that divine nature must be at the point that it can and will override the human nature every time. That's what Christ was. Avenge not yourselves. That takes a lot of grace in every situation not to do that. And Lord help us. Lord help me.
I love the definition of that word. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves. That avenge is to vindicate one's right to do justice, to protect or defend one person from another. We don't have the right to defend one person from another. We don't have the right to punish a person for a thing, another definition. We don't have the right to vindicate, retaliate, punish, or revenge. That is not the human responsibility.
Verse 20 says, therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head.
We shouldn't do it so he'll heap coals of fire on his head. I think somebody preached that not too long ago.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people take that, they do what
Yeah.
they do in hopes that.
They think that
That's not the spirit
different
that was meant.
context.
Yeah.
But
It's not, if we do anything, it's not to bring a sense of satisfaction to us.
Right.
I believe Paul's quoting Proverbs here,
Mm-hmm.
but in that passage it says, and the Lord will reward thee. Your reward for doing right is not going to be self-satisfaction. Oh, don't use that scripture out of context. I'll coals of fire on his head.
love
That's
them.
not.
You know, if you, and we've probably all experienced this before, maybe you've been into an argument with somebody, and a few days down the road, you just feel like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, you just feel like maybe doing something nice to them, thinking, you know, it's been too long since me and Sister William talked. We had it out the other day, and, you know, I just want to send her a card or something like that. Not to make her feel bad, but to say, hey, we're still connected. I still love you, sis. I still love you. I'm sorry that we had, you know, and we could have enemies, but love our enemies. And it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. It's easier, the Bible says, to love those that love you.
Well, Solomon said, rejoice not when thine enemy falleth.
So I was thinking about this with the coals of fire. One thing that occurred to me as I was reading this is the fact that they didn't have lighters and matches back then. Fire wasn't something that was easy to come by on your own. It wasn't something you could just pull something out of your pocket. You couldn't just push in the button in the car and set something on fire. You had to work hard to get a fire going from nothing. Whether you use sticks or flint or whatever you used to make a fire, it was serious effort. But for someone else to give you fire when your fire went out, that all of a sudden that opened up a whole new realm in my mind. I think about a soul who's lost the fire of God, lost that burning, that this little light of mine, so to speak. They've lost that. How do you get it if you don't have a lighter? How do you get it if you don't have matches? You've got to go to somebody else. I mean, obviously, God gives it to us, but was it Matthew 5:16? Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. My light, the only reason it's my light is because God gave it to me. If I have that light, it's my responsibility to share that light with those whose light has gone out. And that's what I see here.
We can be that spark.
We can be that spark, exactly,
We can be that
to
spark.
rekindle the flame of God
Right.
burning in their souls.
You know, I keep using y'all as examples. I see Sister Poya, maybe we've been into it, and she's falling down. If I go help her up, that could be the spark. Say, are you okay? Are you okay? You know, make sure she's okay. That could be the spark that says, you know, we need to get, you know, connected back together. We don't need to let this tiff get to us, and it could be the spark that they need to get where they need to be. And there are several times that you can be that spark to people.
The law, the Jewish law said if you see your enemy's ox fallen under his burden and forbear to help him up, then you're in trouble. I can't remember exactly, but
Right.
you're supposed to help. Even if you see your enemy in trouble, it's your responsibility to reach out and be a blessing to them. And I mean, this is the Jewish law. This isn't even Jesus talking. This is the law of God according to the Jews, that they were to help their enemies, to be good to them.
Exodus 23:5, thou see an ass in the head, be lying in his burden, wouldst not forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help him.
And there you go.
Thou shalt not rest until
Verse 21 says, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. The bad things, overcome it with good. In closing, I want to read part of 1 Thessalonians 5:11 through 23. Just a little bit extra for you to tack on to Romans chapter 12 when you're studying it. 5 verse 11 through 23. I think this is what I need to read every day, Brother William, both of these. Romans 12 and this. It says, wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also ye do. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you, and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake, and be at peace among yourselves. Now we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly, comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient toward all men. See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men. Rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, and everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Quench not the spirit, despise not prophesying, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. Abstain from all appearance of evil. And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless until the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.